Hey all, this is the video about Layer Explorer that I promised you guys we would look at today. I just want to point out a couple things real quick. This is the Scene Explorer button. It's different than Layer Explorer, and you'll see that it says Scene Explorer / Scene Explorer. I'm sure there's a brilliant reason for this, and I'm sure that Autodesk came up with some incredibly wise ways of using this, but it's never come across my desk, so I just don't use it. This is the one that we do have to use, and you will have to use. It's called the Layer Explorer, Scene Explorer. So let's see. If you look up here, it says Scene Explorer, Layer Explorer. This is Scene Explorer, Scene Explorer. You don't want that one. Notice all the buttons on the Layer Explorer. That's the one you want. All right, I've set up the scene inside of here. So we have 4 objects, 4 different boxes. Each of the boxes is named completely differently, and anything that you make or create inside of 3D Studio Max will automatically be put into the folder or the layer with the blue highlight on it. And right now there's only one, so it's going to automatically be in the 0 default. This is the only one you can't change. Every other one you can completely change. You can also see that this little eyeball right there, anything with the eyeball on means it's visible. So if I turn that off, everything goes away. If I turn it back on, everything comes back on. If I do this drop down, and we can see what's inside of this layer. I have a part 1A, I have a part 1, a part 1A, a part 2, and a part 2A. We're going to put part 2A in its own folder, and part 2 and part 2A in one folder, and part 1 and part 1A in another folder. So to do that, all I have to do is select these this way. If I want, I can select them on the screen, or I can select them over here. It doesn't matter. Either way you want to go. You can do the control click and select them. And then after I've selected them, you'll see they're highlighted in the layer stack or in the Layer Explorer. All you have to do is click on this little plus symbol with the gold layer stack on it. So you click it, pops up a new layer. It's called layer 001 because it doesn't rename default. Notice that when I made the new layer, it moved the green stack over here. So anything I make from now on will be put into that stack. You can see I just made a box, dropped it in there. Okay, if I want to go back to the other stack or the other layer, I just click on that picture that's blacked out and it will move it over. All right, so let's do the second one. It doesn't matter if I'm in either layer, by the way, to move or make new layers. It only matters what you have selected. So I'm going to grab these two, and I'm going to come up to the Layer Explorer and click on the plus with the gold layer stack again. And now look, I have layer 1 and layer 2. And if I want to name these, just like everything else in Max or in other places, if I double click on it or click it twice, I come up with the option to name it. So I'm going to call this parts 1. And we'll come up here to this one, and we'll call it parts 2. So now we have 2 layer stacks with 3 different options inside of here, and that's because defaults can never go away. You can have stuff in there still. You can keep that as something in the background, or you can just hide it. I suggest you keep your stuff extremely organized, like we've talked about in class. What you can do here is some of the stuff we talked about in class, which are in the display panel, and these also slide over, just like a lot of programs will have these slide over. I want to be able to read that, I can pull that over. I can pull this part over here, and it opens up the readable. But if you look at it, it says frozen, renderable, or display as box. We don't do a lot of rendering, but what this does is it allows it to be rendered. If we turn it off, it doesn't. We also have the eyeballs again. So if we come over to our display panel, or display tab in the command panel like we talked about today, you can see all this hide, unselected, and stuff is all listed here too. It's the same thing, or it's the right click menu. There's 3 ways to do everything in 3D Studio. And if I want to hide a whole layer, now I can do it at once. If I want to hide just one, I can do it individually. If I want to freeze it, I just click on that, or again, I can say on the right click menu, unfreeze all. So hopefully that answers your questions. There's a bunch of other little options inside of here, and honestly, hide all layers. I mean, they're just freeze everything. There's make selected layer active, which is kind of what we're working in already. So if I go over here, I click this button. Apparently it doesn't do what I thought it did. There, maybe this way. Yeah, it makes it active, but it seems like it's easier just to click on this right here. We can lock layers so nothing can happen to it. We can move the layer or add an active layer, which would be empty. Or actually we can nest layers inside of each other. If you can see that right there, I just nested all 3 of those. This part 2 and part 1 is now inside of there. Anyway, a lot of that stuff for organization, you can drag and drop it out, and now it's on its own layer again. all that stuff for organization and as you want. And you can customize it. I just usually leave this default. This is also like the display menu where it shows everything that you can hide by category. This is the same thing. You can hide them by category by using their icons. All right, that's it. I will talk to you guys on Wednesday. Get your homework done. Just get used to working inside of the interface. We'll talk to you soon.